2 years ago, Paris Saint-Germain told the city of Paris they were done. Done negotiating, done waiting, done playing in a stadium the club didn't own. They picked out land in the suburbs and started drawing up plans for a brand new billion-euro arena built entirely on their own terms. Case closed, or so it seemed. Then, this year, out of nowhere, PSG sat back down at the table with Paris City Hall, and the deal everyone thought was dead is suddenly the frontrunner again. So what actually happened? This is the full story. Let's get into it. Parc des Princes has been PSG's home since the club joined France's top flight in 1974. The stadium itself is much older than that, first opened in 1897 and rebuilt in its current bowl shape in 1972, a striking design of white concrete rings that still looks distinctive today. It's owned outright by the city of Paris, not by PSG, and that single fact has shaped almost every conversation about the club's future for the last 2 decades. In 2013, PSG agreed a lease extension with the city that runs all the way to 2043, and shortly after that, the club spent close to 75 million euros of its own money, upgrading the stadium ahead of Euro 2016, all without closing a single stand during construction. It was a serious investment in a building the club didn't even own, and it bought PSG some breathing room. But breathing room isn't the same as a solution, and the core problem never went away. Parc des Princes holds only around 48,000 fans, roughly 5,000 of those hospitality seats, which is small by the standards of Europe's biggest clubs. For a team backed by Qatari ownership and chasing Real Madrid and Manchester United on revenue, that ceiling matters a lot. For years, PSG's preferred fix was simple: buy the stadium outright and pour money into expanding it properly. The club reportedly made an offer to purchase Parc des Princes back in 2022, and club president Nasser Al-Khelaifi didn't hide his frustration, saying openly that PSG hadn't always felt welcome at a stadium it didn't control. The club even floated putting in an additional 500 million euros toward renovations, but only on the condition that ownership came with it. Paris City Hall said no. At the time, the political will in Paris simply wasn't there. City officials were wary of handing over a piece of public infrastructure to a club already flush with state-backed wealth, and years of back and forth produced nothing but frustration on both sides. Then, in early 2024, PSG's patience ran out. The club officially confirmed it was looking to leave Parc des Princes altogether and build a brand new stadium from scratch, somewhere the club could own every brick of it. 2 sites quickly emerged as the frontrunners: Massy, in the southern suburbs of Paris, and Poissy, out to the west, where PSG's training centre is already based. Both offered something Parc des Princes never could: open land with room to build exactly the kind of sprawling multi-use complex the club had in mind, unrestricted by a century of dense Parisian city planning. For a while, it genuinely looked like the Parc des Princes chapter of PSG's history was heading toward a close. The ambition behind the new build plan has been enormous. Reports have put the price tag at around 1 billion euros, funded privately, in the same way Qatari money has funded almost everything else at PSG over the last decade. PSG's general manager, Victoriano Melero, has talked about wanting a venue built for economic competitiveness as much as football, explicitly pointing to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles as the model. That's not really about matchday atmosphere. SoFi is built as a year-round entertainment machine, hosting concerts, corporate events, and non-football spectacle on top of NFL games. And PSG want that same multi-use engine: a retractable roof, huge video screens, premium hospitality, and AI-driven fan experiences layered on top of the football. Melero has floated an ideal capacity somewhere between 70,000 and 75,000 seats, big enough to guarantee sellouts while massively increasing matchday revenue, one of the areas where PSG still lags well behind Europe's traditional giants despite their spending power on the pitch. Then, earlier this year, the politics shifted. Paris held municipal elections, and Emmanuel Grégoire was elected the new mayor, taking over from a city administration that had spent years refusing to sell Parc des Princes to the club. Grégoire made the stadium question one of his early priorities, and in April 2026, the Paris City Council formally approved the launch of fresh negotiations with PSG over the ground's future. That was a real shift in tone. Where previous talks had often felt like public hostility, both sides suddenly seemed to be describing active diplomacy instead. A key part of the city's pitch is folding any renovated stadium into a wider redevelopment of the surrounding Porte de Saint-Cloud district, turning the area around the ground into something more than just a football venue on match days. Things moved further in June 2026, when PSG and the City of Paris held their first steering committee meeting on the subject. Described by people close to the talks as the biggest breakthrough in years of on-and-off negotiation, club officials reportedly presented several concrete redevelopment options, with capacity potentially rising from the current 48,000 all the way up to somewhere between 60,000 and 70,000 seats through a major expansion and modernization of the existing site. No final decision has been made. Technical studies are now underway to work out whether that scale of redevelopment is even physically possible, given how tightly Parc des Princes is boxed in by its surrounding neighborhood. A very different challenge than building on open land in Massy. But for a project that once looked completely dead, meaningful conversation about ownership and expansion happening at all counts as real progress. Crucially, none of this means Massy and Poissy are off the table. PSG have been careful to keep both options alive throughout 2026, treating the reopened Parc des Princes talks as one serious possibility rather than a guaranteed outcome. The club's official line has stayed fairly consistent. They are studying every scenario in parallel, from buying and dramatically upgrading their current home to walking away entirely and building something new on a clean site. According to people close to the process, an unofficial decision could land as early as this autumn, though anyone who has followed European stadium sagas for any length of time knows those timelines have a habit of slipping. That's really the tension at the heart of this whole story. On one side, there's Parc des Princes, a stadium PSG have called home for over 50 years, sitting right inside the city, wrapped in genuine history, but boxed in by geography and, until very recently, boxed in politically too. On the other side, there's the promise of a purpose-built, American-style venue, out in the suburbs, unconstrained by any city council, designed from the ground up to maximize revenue in a way an old inner-city bowl never fully could. Whichever way PSG go, the number attached to it is roughly the same, somewhere around €1 billion of investment either way. What's different is what that money buys: a modernized piece of Parisian history, or a completely new identity built from scratch outside it. For now, PSG remain unmistakably a club in transition when it comes to their home ground, negotiating on two fronts at once and refusing to commit publicly to either path until the studies and the politics settle. It's a genuinely unusual position for a club of this stature to be in this deep into the process, still weighing two completely different futures rather than pushing forward on one. Whatever gets decided, this is a club with the financial firepower and the ambition to make it happen quickly once the choice is finally made. And that's the full story behind PSG's stadium dilemma, one of the most closely watched decisions in world football right now. Do you think PSG should stay and renovate Parc des Princes, or build something completely new? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more.